The people who respond to America's worst disasters, the ones wading through floodwaters, coordinating helicopter drops in hurricane zones, managing the chaos after a wildfire tears through a city, those people go home at night and prepare for exactly that kind of situation themselves. Not because their employer mandates it, not because there's some government incentive program. They do it because they've seen things, real things, things that permanently change how you think about the fragility of normal life. These are people who have stood in neighborhoods where the grocery stores are completely empty, the tap water is brown, and the lights have been out for 3 weeks straight. They've watched ordinary families completely fall apart because they had absolutely nothing. No food, no water, no plan whatsoever. And then they drive home, stop at the hardware store on the way, and quietly build something completely different for their own families. Here's the thing. What they actually stockpile looks nothing like what you'll find on the official FEMA public website. That stuff is the bare minimum. The watered-down, liability-conscious, written for the average person version of preparedness. What the professionals actually have sitting in their own homes, that's an entirely different list. Built from experience, not from a government PR department. And that's exactly what we're going through today, point by point. First, understand how these people actually think. Before we get into specific items, you need to understand the mindset behind all of this. Because without it, this list just sounds like paranoid hoarding to most people. Most people think about emergencies in terms of a bad weekend. Power goes out Friday night, comes back Sunday afternoon. Stock up on candles and sandwich stuff. Ride it out, you're fine. FEMA professionals don't think in days, they think in weeks, sometimes months, and that's not an exaggeration. Why? Because they've personally witnessed up close what extended disasters actually look like on the ground. Hurricane Katrina didn't wrap up in 72 hours. It stretched into weeks of misery and dysfunction. Puerto Rico, after Hurricane Maria, was a multi-month humanitarian crisis that exposed just how fragile modern infrastructure really is. The Texas winter storm in 2021 hit a state that genuinely, confidently believed it was immune to that kind of infrastructure failure. It wasn't. When you spend your entire career responding to those situations, your personal preparedness scales accordingly. You stop thinking, what if the power's out for the weekend? And you start thinking, what if things are genuinely broken for a month or longer? That mental shift changes absolutely everything about what you buy, how much you store, and how you think about your household's ability to function completely independently of outside help. Keep that in mind as we work through this list. Every single point connects back to that longer horizon thinking. Point 1, water. Storage alone isn't enough. You need production capability. Everyone knows you're supposed to store water. The official recommendation is 1 gallon per person per day for 3 days. Store 9 gallons for a family of 3. Done. Problem solved. Move on. That advice is not technically wrong. It's just embarrassingly incomplete when you understand what actually happens during major disasters. Here's the reality that disaster responders understand from direct personal experience. Water infrastructure is almost always among the very last things to be restored after a major disaster. Pipes crack and burst. Water treatment facilities lose power and can't operate safely. Contamination gets into the distribution system and makes tap water unsafe to drink even after pressure is restored and the pipes look fine. After a serious regional disaster, you could realistically be looking at 2 to 4 weeks, sometimes longer, without reliable clean water coming out of your tap. 3 days of stored water doesn't even begin to address that problem. It gets you through the first stretch and then leaves you completely exposed. So what do FEMA professionals actually do about this? They think about water in 2 completely separate categories. Storage and production. Both matter. Neither one alone is sufficient. Stored water is the straightforward part. Large food-grade containers, ideally 30 to 55 gallon barrels if you have the physical space for them. Most people also don't realize that their residential water heater is already a significant water source. Most water heaters hold between 40 and 80 gallons of clean drinkable water that almost nobody thinks to access when an emergency hits. But storage has a hard ceiling. You can only store so much water, and eventually it runs out regardless of how much you started with. Production doesn't have that limitation. The item that consistently shows up on the professional list is a high-quality gravity-fed water filtration system. Not a Brita pitcher. Not the thing that makes your city tap water taste slightly better. A legitimate emergency filtration system specifically designed to make water from rivers, streams, lakes, and collected rainwater genuinely safe to drink. These filters handle bacteria and protozoa reliably. Pair them with a basic chemical treatment step, and you're also addressing viruses. A quality gravity filter runs somewhere between $60 and $200 depending on capacity and brand. It can process tens of thousands of gallons across its entire lifespan. For someone who has personally watched entire communities run out of bottled water inside the first 48 hours of a major emergency, a gravity filter is not a nice-to-have luxury item. It's genuinely non-negotiable. Beyond filtration, it's also worth knowing how to collect water. Rainwater collection from roof gutters into clean containers, understanding where natural water sources are in your local area, and knowing the difference between surface water that can be filtered and water that's too contaminated to be salvageable. This is the knowledge layer that sits underneath the equipment. The blunt takeaway here: you need both storage and production capability, not one or the other. Both. Start with whatever storage you can build immediately and add a quality gravity filter as soon as possible. Point 2. Food. Built around efficiency and practicality, not excitement. The average person's emergency food plan is a few extra cans sitting in the back of the pantry and maybe some granola bars in a drawer somewhere. That is not a plan. That is denial with a thin layer of groceries on top. FEMA professionals approach food storage around 3 specific principles. All 3 matter equally, and skipping any one of them creates a real gap. Principle 1. Caloric density. In a real emergency, your body's caloric demands often go up significantly. Physical labor, elevated stress, cold temperatures, all of it burns through fuel faster than normal. This is why disaster responders don't fill their pantries with diet food or elaborate meal kit ingredients. They stock calorie-dense staples that deliver maximum energy per dollar and per pound. White rice, dried beans, rolled oats, cooking oil, peanut butter and other nut butters, salt, honey which never expires and provides quick energy. These are not exciting foods in any way. They are extremely efficient foods. A sealed 50-pound bag of white rice stores for 25 to 30 years in a proper airtight container. It contains roughly 80,000 calories. That's a meaningful food reserve for an entire family, and it costs less than most people spend on a single week of normal grocery shopping. Dried beans stored properly last just as long and provide essential protein and fiber. Combined, rice and beans form a nutritionally complete protein source that has fed populations for centuries. Principle 2. Rotation. A stockpile you forget about isn't a stockpile. It's money you slowly threw away in the dark corner of a closet. The professionals who do this right build what's called a first-in, first-out system. New purchases always go to the back of the shelf. Oldest items always come to the front and get used in regular everyday cooking. The pantry stays perpetually stocked. Nothing expires unused. Nothing gets wasted. Your emergency food supply quietly becomes part of your normal household life rather than a separate, intimidating project you have to maintain separately. This approach also means you actually know how to cook your emergency food. If you've been eating rice and beans and canned fish regularly, you know how to prepare them. You're not opening unfamiliar packages and trying to figure out what to do with them under stress. Principle 3. Nutritional balance. Calories keep you alive. Nutrients keep you actually functional and healthy. These are meaningfully different things, and the gap between them becomes serious over weeks. Canned fish and canned meat provide essential protein. Canned vegetables cover critical micronutrients. Multivitamins fill the gaps that storage foods can't fully address. Salt gets its own mention because most people dramatically underestimate how important it is. Salt is a food preservative, an absolute cooking essential, and under sustained physical stress, your body actually requires more of it than normal. Emergency responders specifically and consistently call out salt as one of the most underrated items on any preparation list. And here's the category that most people skip entirely: comfort food. This sounds completely frivolous until you've actually been stuck in a genuinely difficult situation for several weeks. When everything around you is disrupted, uncertain, and stressful, small familiar luxuries do something measurably real to your mental and emotional state. A cup of coffee in the morning, a piece of chocolate, hot sauce on your rice and beans, instant soup packets. These things have a disproportionately large positive effect on morale when morale is otherwise in serious trouble. Experienced disaster responders know this because they've watched it play out over and over again in the field. People who feel like they have small dignities and small pleasures available hold together better than people who feel like they're just surviving on the bare minimum. They make deliberate, intentional room for comfort items in their own stores. Point 3, power, layer it thoughtfully and know what actually needs it. The standard public advice on emergency power is keep batteries and a flashlight. That's the advice of someone who has never personally been without power for more than a few uncomfortable hours. People who respond to disasters professionally take a completely different and deliberately layered approach to power. The layers build on each other, and all of them serve a distinct purpose. Layer 1, lighting that actually works for real tasks. Not a single flashlight that the whole household shares and argues over. Multiple light sources distributed through every space you actually use during evening hours. Headlamps instead of handheld flashlights, specifically because hands-free light is dramatically more useful when you're actually doing something practical in the dark. Cooking, administering first aid, caring for children, doing anything that requires both hands. LED battery-powered lanterns for ambient room lighting that doesn't require anyone to hold anything. Backup batteries in quantities that feel excessive at the time, because in practice they go faster than you'd ever expect. Layer 2, portable power stations. These are large-capacity rechargeable battery banks, not your standard phone charger power bank. A proper unit large enough to charge phones many times over, power small appliances, run a CPAP machine for someone who needs one, or keep LED lighting operational for extended periods without additional charging. The technology in this category has genuinely improved dramatically over recent years, and prices have come down significantly as a result. A quality unit costs a few $100s and provides meaningful power independence. Pair one of these units with a compact folding solar panel, and you have a genuinely renewable power source. Sun rises, battery charges, you draw power at night. As long as you're not trying to run a full refrigerator off it, this setup covers your core communication and lighting needs almost indefinitely as long as the sun keeps coming up. Layer 3, generator, but specifically not gas only. This is where the professional perspective becomes genuinely specific and important. Gas-only generators have a serious, fundamental problem that most people don't think to consider until they're in the middle of a crisis. Gasoline degrades over several months and becomes unusable. And during a regional emergency, every gas station in the affected area is either completely empty or without the power needed to run the pumps. Emergency professionals who invest in generators often choose dual-fuel models that run on both gasoline and propane. Propane stores indefinitely in properly sealed containers. You can buy it right now at any hardware store today without any special planning. It doesn't degrade, it doesn't go bad. A stockpile of propane canisters means your generator continues running even after gasoline has been impossible to find for 2 weeks. The most critical thing professionals think about at this layer is priority and restraint. They are not trying to power their entire house. They make a specific, intentional list of what actually needs electricity in a real emergency. Communication devices, medical equipment for anyone who requires it, medications that need refrigeration, like insulin, lighting for safety and function, temperature control in conditions that are genuinely dangerous, extreme cold or extreme heat. That is the working list. The television waits, the gaming console waits, the coffee maker waits. Target your available power toward what genuinely matters, and you can make a limited power supply last significantly longer. Point 4, heat and cooking. Without the grid, this category doesn't get nearly enough attention in mainstream preparedness content, and the gap is a serious one. Most modern homes are almost completely dependent on the electrical grid for both heat and cooking capability. Even natural gas stoves in many newer homes use electronic ignition systems that don't function without power. When the grid goes down during winter, a house can become dangerously cold within hours, depending on construction and outside temperatures. FEMA professionals think about heat and cooking specifically and separately from general power planning. They don't assume their home's existing heating and cooking systems will work during an emergency. A propane camping stove with multiple extra fuel canisters handles the cooking problem cleanly. It's simple, completely reliable, and functions entirely independently of any infrastructure whatsoever. You can boil water for purification, cook rice and beans, heat soups and canned goods, and make coffee. Everything essential. With a $30 camp stove and a reasonable stack of fuel canisters. For heating, The situation is more complex and more location-dependent. Wood-burning stoves are the gold standard for off-grid heating if you happen to have one already installed. They run on a fuel source you can gather locally or purchase without depending on power infrastructure. They don't require electricity. They continue working reliably when everything else fails. If you don't have a wood stove, a properly vented kerosene heater is a common and practical backup among serious preparedness-minded people. It runs entirely without electricity, heats a room effectively, and kerosene stores reasonably well over time. The non-negotiable caveat: ventilation is absolutely critical with kerosene heaters. Never use them in a fully sealed, unventilated space. Carbon monoxide is a real and serious risk. Here's the piece most people miss entirely. Layered warm clothing and sleeping bags rated for genuinely cold temperatures are among the most important heating-related items on the professional list. In a heating emergency, the most effective first response is insulating your body directly, not attempting to heat the entire building. A good sleeping bag rated for 0 degrees costs less than a tank of propane and protects you regardless of what the heating situation in the building looks like. Professionals know this from field experience. Most civilians genuinely don't think about it until they're cold. Point 5. Communications plan. As if your phone won't work. This is probably the single biggest gap between what most people assume will happen during a disaster and what actually happens on the ground. People assume their smartphone will work throughout an emergency. It usually does, for somewhere between a few hours and most of the first day. Then cell towers get overwhelmed almost instantly by everyone trying to call and text family at the same time. Then some towers start losing power as their backup batteries drain. Then some get physically damaged by the disaster itself. And then the cell network in the affected region is simply effectively gone. The average person at that point has absolutely no way to receive information, no way to understand what's happening, and no way to contact anyone for help. FEMA professionals almost universally keep a no-AA weather radio at home. This is a dedicated, purpose-built receiver that picks up emergency broadcasts directly from the National Weather Service and FEMA's emergency alert system. It works completely and entirely independently of cell networks and the internet. It runs on batteries or hand-crank power. In a serious regional emergency, it is very often the only way to receive reliable, verified information about what's actually happening and when help might realistically arrive. Beyond that baseline, two-way handheld radios allow communication with immediate neighbors or family members within a reasonable range, typically a few miles in open terrain. No infrastructure required whatsoever, no cell network needed, just radio waves moving through the air. During the Texas winter storm disaster, some neighborhoods organized their entire community response using two-way radios when phones became completely unreliable. Some experienced emergency responders go further still and obtain a ham radio license. This opens access to a vast global amateur radio network capable of communicating across enormous distances with absolutely no infrastructure dependence. It requires a meaningful investment of time to study and pass the licensing exam and some investment in equipment. But for someone who has personally witnessed true grid-down scenarios play out, it is a completely rational and defensible choice. It's also worth having physical maps of your local area and region. GPS navigation depends on satellites and devices with power. A paper map works in any conditions. Knowing your local geography, alternate routes, where bridges are, where high ground sits, is valuable knowledge that doesn't require any powered device. The core principle here is blunt and direct. Do not assume that any communication tool you currently rely on will be reliably available during the specific emergency you might face. Build your communication plan, assuming that everything normal is offline, and you'll be covered for anything less severe than that. Point 6. Documentation and cache. The category. Almost nobody plans for this one, almost never appears in mainstream preparedness content. Most prepping discussions are entirely focused on physical survival. Food, water, shelter, security. But emergency professionals think about what happens not just during the disaster itself, but in the months of difficult recovery that follow it. And here's what they consistently observe. The people who struggle most in recovery are very often not the ones who ran out of food or water during the event. They're the ones whose financial and legal lives became an additional crisis on top of everything else, because critical documents were destroyed or simply inaccessible. Think carefully about what you actually need to prove who you are, what you own, and what assistance you're legally entitled to receive. Birth certificates for every household member, social security cards, passports, property deeds and mortgage documents, insurance policies and policy numbers for every type of coverage you carry. Complete medical records and current prescription information for everyone in the household. Vehicle titles, financial account numbers, and contact information for your bank and investment accounts. If your house burns down or floods completely, and those documents are destroyed along with everything else, you are now facing a brutal, bureaucratic nightmare simultaneously with the physical disaster. Replacing critical identity and ownership documents after a major disaster, while also trying to navigate insurance claims and access government assistance programs, is a months-long ordeal that adds enormous stress and hardship to an already terrible situation. Every emergency professional keeps secure copies, a complete physical set stored in a waterproof, fireproof bag or document safe. A complete digital set either encrypted and stored in a secure cloud service or on an encrypted USB drive that can be accessed from any location with any device. Setting this up takes one focused afternoon and costs essentially nothing beyond the storage container. It is one of the highest return preparedness actions on this entire list. Cash is the other essential piece of this category, and it gets overlooked constantly. When power infrastructure fails, card readers stop working, ATMs go completely offline, electronic payment systems of all kinds simply fail to function. In the immediate aftermath of a major disaster, physical cash is frequently the only transaction medium that functions at all for days or even weeks. This doesn't mean keeping tens of thousands of dollars under your mattress. It means having enough cash at home to cover several weeks of essential purchases from vendors who are still operating but physically cannot process electronic payments. Think realistically about what that number looks like for your specific household's needs and keep it in a secure, accessible location. Point 7. First aid. Built for real emergencies, not minor inconveniences. A standard drugstore first aid kit handles minor situations reasonably well. It is not remotely capable of addressing a scenario where hospitals are overwhelmed and turning people away, roads are impassable, and professional medical help is potentially a week or more away from reaching you. Emergency responders build personal medical kits that are designed to handle genuinely serious situations, not just paper cuts and headaches. Wound closure strips and suture kits for deeper lacerations that need real closure. A CAT tourniquet, the actual purpose-built device, not a piece of rope or a belt, for controlling severe bleeding from limb injuries. This single item saves lives in trauma situations and costs under $30. Hemostatic gauze for packing wounds that won't stop bleeding on their own. Chest seals for penetrating chest injuries. Proper splinting material for suspected fractures. A blood pressure cuff and quality thermometer for monitoring a person's health status over an extended period when professional assessment isn't available. And critically, a genuine manual explaining how to use everything in the kit. A wilderness first responder handbook or similar field medical reference covers the skills you need for serious injury management outside a clinical setting. Equipment you don't know how to use is expensive clutter that takes up space. Take a wilderness first aid course if you can. The hands-on training is worth more than any amount of equipment without the knowledge to back it up. On the medication side, the professional standard is maintaining a 90-day supply of any prescription medications, rotating them as new prescriptions are filled so nothing expires. Over-the-counter medications in genuine, meaningful depth. Pain relievers, antihistamines, anti-diarrheal medications, antacids, electrolyte powder packets. These items reliably disappear from store shelves within hours of any major emergency announcement because everyone has the same idea simultaneously. The most important element of professional medical preparation is household-specific assessment. If someone in your home uses insulin, a detailed refrigeration and storage plan for that insulin needs to exist right now, before you need it. If someone has a severe allergy requiring epinephrine, multiple doses need to be on hand. If someone has a serious heart condition or other chronic illness, their specific medical needs require specific planning, not generic preparedness advice. Take an honest, detailed medical inventory of every person in your household and plan around their actual needs. Point 8. Sanitation. The category. People actively avoid thinking about. Nobody wants to discuss this one. So most people simply don't plan for it at all. And then when a real disaster hits, it becomes a serious health risk and a significant dignity crisis almost immediately after the event. Here's the straightforward reality. When water infrastructure fails, which it frequently does in major disasters, toilets stop functioning reliably or at all. When garbage collection stops, waste of all kinds accumulates quickly. In the aftermath of flooding and similar events, the sanitation situation can deteriorate into a genuine public health emergency faster than almost any other single factor. FEMA professionals plan for sanitation specifically and deliberately, even though it's an uncomfortable topic. A 5-gallon bucket with a snap-on portable toilet seat is not glamorous in any way. It is completely functional, and it costs approximately $30 total. Heavy-duty waste bags specifically designed for human waste, kitty litter, or agricultural lime for waste treatment and odor control, and a clear plan for where processed waste actually goes. These are unpleasant things to think about and plan for. They are genuinely important things to plan for in advance. Personal hygiene supplies in meaningful depth. Hand sanitizer, which becomes critical when running water is unavailable. Bar soap and liquid soap in quantity. Baby wipes for personal cleaning when running water isn't available. They serve countless sanitation purposes beyond their intended use. Feminine hygiene products in sufficient quantity for the women and girls in your household. Dental hygiene supplies, because dental health doesn't stop mattering during an emergency. Unscented household bleach deserves specific mention. A small amount of regular bleach can disinfect water in an emergency. It can sanitize contaminated surfaces effectively. It can dramatically reduce infection risk in environments with poor sanitation conditions. Disaster responders consistently identify bleach as one of the most versatile and underappreciated items on any comprehensive preparedness list. If sanitation infrastructure fails for 2 or 3 weeks, a realistic scenario in serious regional disasters, the household that planned thoughtfully for it is in a fundamentally different position from the household that gave it no thought at all. Point 9. Tools and physical capability. After a major disaster, professional repair services simply will not arrive quickly. Contractors will be overwhelmed with calls from thousands of damaged properties. Utility crews will be working 24-hour shifts just to restore power infrastructure. You may realistically be looking at days or weeks before any professional assistance reaches your specific property. In the meantime, physical problems need physical solutions, and the ability to address them yourself is a meaningful advantage. A quality handsaw for cutting through debris and fallen trees without requiring electricity. Pry bars and bolt cutters for accessing areas that are blocked or locked. A come-along or mechanical winch for moving heavy objects like fallen trees or debris without powered equipment. Heavy-duty tarps in multiple sizes and enough installation supplies to secure them properly. Roofing nails, heavy-duty staple gun with plenty of staples. Duct tape in serious quantity. A properly secured tarp over a damaged roof section protects everything inside the structure from water damage until real permanent repairs can happen. That protection can make the difference between a repairable situation and a complete loss. Work gloves in multiple sizes, including multiple pairs of each size. This gets mentioned repeatedly and consistently by emergency responders as a commonly overlooked basic item. The dominant physical activity in the aftermath of most natural disasters is debris removal, moving branches, insulation, rubble, broken materials. Bare hands are completely inadequate for this work over any extended period. Stabilized fuel storage. Gasoline treated with proper fuel stabilizer stores safely and remains usable for a year or more. Having 15 to 20 gallons of treated stable fuel available means you can run a generator, evacuate with a full vehicle tank, or power essential motorized equipment without competing for scarce gasoline at stations that may not be operating or may have lines stretching for blocks. A complete set of basic hand tools that require no electricity whatsoever. Hammer, multiple wrench sizes, full screwdriver set, pliers, adjustable wrench, level. Matters significantly when power tools aren't viable. After a disaster, the ability to make repairs and address physical problems in your home without waiting indefinitely for help to arrive is a real and significant advantage over households without those capabilities. Point 10. Security and situational awareness. This is the topic that makes some people uncomfortable in preparedness discussions. But emergency professionals are fundamentally pragmatic people, and they're consistently honest about what actually happens during extended disasters based on documented history. When basic community services break down over an extended period and resources become genuinely scarce, social order becomes more fragile than people expect. This is not a dramatic movie scenario invented for entertainment. It has occurred in real documented disasters. It is not the typical experience. The vast majority of people in crisis situations are cooperative, decent, and helpful to their neighbors. But the edge case risk is real, and professionals plan for it honestly. Situational awareness is the most accessible and important first layer. Know your neighborhood genuinely well. Know which neighbors are reliable and cooperative. Understand the routes in and out of your immediate area, including alternatives if main roads are blocked. Know what's happening around you through observation and communication, rather than assumption. Exterior lighting, specifically motion-activated lighting, discourages opportunistic problems by signaling that someone is home and alert. It's basic, inexpensive, and meaningfully effective at deterrence. Community relationships are, honestly, the most important security element available. A neighborhood where residents know each other, genuinely check on each other, share information, and are willing to coordinate effort is dramatically safer and more resilient than a neighborhood of isolated strangers who have never spoken. This finding is consistently and strongly supported by actual disaster research across multiple events and cultures. Personal security tools and the training to use them responsibly represent a personal decision based on individual circumstances, values, local laws, and household composition. Emergency professionals do think about this category carefully. The right answer depends entirely on the specific situation, location, and people involved.